Thank you for the cross, Lord. Thank you for the price you paid, bearing all my sin and shame. In love you came, gave amazing grace. Thank you for this love, Lord. Thank you for the nail-pierced hands, washed me in your cleansing flow. Now all I know, your forgiveness and embrace. Worthy is the Lamb, seated on the throne. Crown you now with every crown. You reign victorious, high and lifted up, Jesus, Son of God, the darling of heaven crucified. Worthy is the Lamb, worthy is the Lamb. Thank you for the cross, Lord. Thank you for the price you paid, bearing all my sin and shame. In love you came, gave amazing grace. Thank you for this love, Lord. Thank you for nail-pierced hands, washed me in your cleansing flow. Now all I know, your forgiveness and embrace. Worthy is the Lamb,
Good evening, televiewers. Good evening once again to this edition of the Hour of Grace on ABC Amber Television. My name is Minister Saver, and with me on this edition of the program is our one and only Mr. Nanchop. Today we've got a very rich package for you, and I believe that as you watch this program, you're going to discover a lot of things that are going on in this revolution. And as we approach it from God's own perspective, I believe a lot of people will start discovering what the truth is all about when it comes to this revolution. Because there are a lot of things going on, and people have taken advantage to do whatever they want and to say whatever thing they feel they can say. But I believe that as we unveil that which we have for this program, you're gonna start discovering a lot of things and the truth about what is really happening in this revolution. And Mr. Nanchop, good evening.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, Mr. Silver. Dear televiewers, welcome to today's edition of Hour of Grace. This is your favorite show on ABC Amber TV. We bring you divine inspiration, not just for the revolution, but also for your life, as we always say. Now, on today's show, as Minister Silver said, we are talking about Ambazonians must overcome every hypocrisy in this revolution. Televiewers, it's a big topic. I just want you to click on the share button. Please share the link in your WhatsApp groups, in your Facebook groups. Invite others to join this show of today, because we are going to go into the deep. We are going to touch some core things pertaining to this Ambazonian revolution. And I promise you, you will be blessed and you will be inspired. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Nanchop, in today's edition, we're gonna be talking about Ambazonians must overcome every hypocrisy in this revolution. First of all, I would like us to know that hypocrisy is all about someone pretending to be who he is not. And from the divine constitution, or the Bible, as you may call it, we have a lot of scriptures that exposes to us what hypocrisy is all about. For example, in Luke chapter 12, 2 says that there is nothing concealed that will not be disclosed, or hidden that will not be made known. So, Mr. Nanchop, with respect to the topic of today, I want us to understand that no matter what who does in this revolution, like the Bible says in Luke 12:2, that there is nothing concealed that will not be disclosed, or hidden that will not be made known. Whosoever is hiding behind a mask and trying to pretend to be something else in this revolution, like the Bible puts it clearly, there is nothing that will not be disclosed. One day, and I'm not even talking of one day, because a lot of things are already unveiling in this revolution, and people are beginning to see the true colors of some people who thought were standing for this revolution. Some people who in the beginning pretended, to be fighting for Ambazonians. As time passes by, we have started seeing the true colors of those people. So, Mr. Nanchop, can you elaborate a bit on this?
Well, first of all, Minister Silva, it's always a blessing, and I'm always happy working with you together. You are a blessing, not just to me, but also to the Ambazonian. To the Ambazonian nation. I must make mention of that. Now, dear televiewers, I want us to break this thing in simple format. I always like breaking things down in a very simple way that even the layman will understand it. So let's just do it like this. Let's categorize hypocrisy. Of course, you've given us the definition of hypocrisy. Now, I want us to categorize it pertaining to this Ambazonia revolution in two forms. We are going to talk about the external hypocrisy and the internal hypocrisy. I will break that down. Talking about the external hypocrisy, I want us to look at the hypocrisy at international level. I want us to look at the hypocrisy of the international community as pertaining to the Ambazonian revolution and as pertaining to many other things in the world. In fact, I'm going to give us a series of examples, practical, realistic examples of things and situations that are happening in the world right now, mostly in the Ambazonian revolution. And we see these hypocritical actions from the international community, let me put it in plural. And we are going to also talk about the internal hypocrisy. Talking about the internal hypocrisy, we are going to touch factors like the things we see, we the Ambazonians, we do that are hypocritical, how we are not helping our revolution because we are very hypocritical in our actions. We are not being just, we are not being honest in the way we handle things. So with that being said, Minister Silva, perhaps I should jump direct into the first point. Let me talk about the external hypocrisy.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Let's talking about hypocrisy, I must say the world is suffering from a global sickness that is called hypocrisy. It's something that is global. It's a global sickness. We see hypocrisy we talk about the internal community almost every day, and also in the international community almost every day. Let me give an example. Isn't it a shame to see that when hundreds of thousands of people die in the Middle East, when thousands of people are dying in Ambazonia, no or very little international platform media are reporting about it? But let me give another example. If one person should die due to a terrorist attack on the streets of California, on the streets of New York, all the TV stations of the West, all the TV stations in the USA, all the TV stations, even around the world, will be carrying it. It will become the top topic of the day. There will be reports about terror attack. I even saw this thing. Let me give another example. Look at what happened in Paris just of recent.
That's right.
Everyone was putting on their Facebook wall, I am Paris, je suis Paris, I am Paris. What were they trying to do? They were trying to sympathize with that situation. And looking at it, it's not like I'm trying to justify the death of anybody. Listen, life is a precious gift that God has given us all. And this life, what I'm trying to say is worthy. Everyone is worthy. Everyone deserves to live. This is a gift. We all deserve to enjoy it. So it's not like when something happens in one part of the world, it has more value, or some other lives have more value than some other lives. So what am I trying to say? We see this happens in our modern world so often. We see in Middle East, in Arab nations, when children are being killed by dictators, like also in Ambazonia and in southern Cameroon, when dictators in the world like Mr. Biya Vodo, I always call him occultic dictator, Biya Vodo. When he goes out and kills innocent people, he commits genocide, nobody reports about that. We see the images on the net. We see how people are being slaughtered daily in Ambazonia. People are being killed. The CNN and the other national and the other TVs, they are not talking about these things. It sounds like the lives of these people don't matter. This is gross nepotism and discrimination. We see international bodies, they are dormant about it. They stay quiet. It's like it doesn't matter. These lives don't matter to them. But if, as I said, due to some nonsense things, because most of the times they always say it's terrorism, well, that's their definition. But if something happens somewhere in Paris or in England or so, where two people are victims, the whole world will carry it as the news and as the topic of the day. Now, the question is this. Is that justice to humanity? Are we just being nepotist? Are we just being discriminating? Are we discriminating because these people we think they don't matter?
Mr. Nanchop,
yes, sir.
what you're saying is very important, and I'll just, before you continue, because you are saying some very serious things there, and that is what has really been like keeping us spellbound to know that people are dying in Ambazonia, and the war is pretending not to see what is happening. Whereas, you know, when something happens somewhere, like someone, just a single person is killed, the whole international media carries it, and but thousands of hundreds of people die every day in Ambazonia, but they pretend not to see it. I want to, you know, go back to this interview, just to add to what you are saying. This interview that Secretary Chris had with this Madame Rebecca, the former BBC reporter, and she made some startling revelations in that interview. She said, UN, the United Nations, which we have been thinking that, you know, would have like sent their peacekeeping troops in Ambazonia to stop the war that is going on, but till now they have done nothing. She made it clear to us that the United Nations will never intervene. They will keep pretending and saying that Mr. Biya should call for, you know, a dialogue, a dialogue, you know, between the separatists and La Republique. But they will never take any actions because they are using La Republique to cause same atrocities in the north, you know, in the with respect to the issue of Boko Haram. So if we look critically, like you said, most of these people, some of us have been looking up all these organizations. From that interview, I came to realize that I believe that, you know, we should just focus in God and keep standing strong and fighting, you know, because just no one definitely is really going to help us out of this crisis which we find ourselves in, but God alone. So if we're looking up to the UN, they will continue to play this hypocritical game and nothing will change.
Minister Silva, as a matter of fact, the so-called United Nations, African Union, Amnesty International, these are a bunch of hypocrites. Listen, somebody might say, Mr. Nanchop, you're not sounding civil. No, I'm using just the right adjective to describe them because they're a bunch of hypocrites. I can bring it and I can justify it. Let me clearly justify my statement. Now, talking about the international community, let's talk about the genocide that took place in Rwanda. I always say this genocide was perpetrated by France, was simulated by France. We can have different opinions, but that's my own opinion. Now, I want to say something. Let's look at the time range in which this genocide took place. History tells us it took place from the 7th of April, 1994 through July. If we should calculate that, that's a space of about 3 to 4 months. Statistically, over 1 million people were killed. There is something called crisis prevention. Now, when this thing took place, the international community said, never again will they ever sit quiet or be dormant to allow such a thing to happen. This is 2019. Yeah. The same thing is happening in southern Cameroon. The same thing is happening in our days, in this modern generation. Brothers and sisters, that shows that we haven't gone wiser. That shows that nothing has changed. The international community, and don't forget, we are still talking about the external hypocrisy. We are coming to the internal hypocrisy. Right. We are still talking about the external hypocrisy. That's why we are addressing these hypocritical actions of the international community. Now, let me go back to what I was saying. We are seeing these things happening. We see these things are happening right now in Ambazonia. And yet, the international community is doing nothing. I made a statement before and I said there is something called crisis prevention. Let me say something to you. It will be shocked for you to understand that there is a specific budget that has been set aside for such actions like crisis prevention. That means if a crisis is about taking place somewhere, there are measures that are put in place to prevent those crises. And there are bodies in the international community that are responsible for such things. I live in Germany. The German government has a particular unit or unit that works to prevent crisis in Germany. So even at the international level, there is a body that, or there is a unit that carries out this function. Thinking of what is happening to, in Ambazonia right now, in the southern Cameroons. We see how people are being slaughtered in their masses. We even saw images of mass graves in Yaoundé. The location has been identified. My brother, can you imagine that in the United States of America, or in London, in the Great Britain, can you imagine that such mass graves, such images will be coming out, that they're having mass graves, people are being carried and are being buried like that in their numbers in this modern generation? That will become the topic of the day. It will become the talk of the day. Let it just be a rumor, not even a truth, just a rumor. Believe me, all the security bodies in the United States or in England will take measures to investigate that case. Not only that, international bodies and other nations will even send helps and aids for that case to be investigated. But we are talking about something that we have the reality, we have the images, we have the proofs. It's taking place in Ambazonia. Yet, all what the United Nations and they call themselves Amnesty International or whatsoever, African Union has even not, that one is the worst. That one is the toothless dog. I'm sorry. Dear televiewers, I'm not just going to be civil today, because sometimes we need to call a spade a spade. We need to listen. The Bible says, since from the days of John the Baptist, the kingdom of God suffered violence. He said, and the violence must take it. They take it by force. Did you listen to what Ambassador Cohen said? He said the Ambazonians are not radical enough. He said his words were, they are not angry enough. In other words, they are not radical enough. We are still mixing with words. We are still playing. It's like we don't know what we want. See, I'm sorry. I'm going to call a spade on this show today. And I'm going to say the truth from the bottom of my heart. It's a shame to see that the international community is so dormant. All what they do is they write some press release. We encourage inclusive dialogue. This is a crisis that started 2016. And before it escalated to this level to become an armed conflict, it's something that gradually, metamorphosized into something else. It started gently and it was taking another stage. The international community, of course, they were dormant. They will only collect their monies. They will never go into their roles and do their job. They just folded their arms and were like, okay, let them do what they want to do. How would you allow a dictator like Biya, somebody, what I don't understand is, listen, this is somebody who's been in power for over 40 years. Don't forget the 7 years he was the prime minister of the country. This is somebody who can barely walk and reason. Just of recent, we saw images of his pants pulling down, falling apart, or falling down. This is somebody who can no more reason. He goes to, that's right. He goes to an international meeting. He's been asked a simple question he cannot answer. People like Mr. Biya or Dictator Biya, they should be in their, what we call in German, rente, pension. He should be sitting somewhere and enjoying his old age. But because of this international conspiracy, and I want to tell you what I mean by that. You see, countries like France and other countries in the European Union, China is not in the European Union, but other countries like China, who are profiting from the exploitation of the natural resources of Ambazonia, of the former British Southern Cameroons. They will fold their arms when they have a puppet dog like Mr. Biya in power, who always gives to them what they want, who will yield to them what they want. Of course, Mr. Biya has nothing to leave. That man does not have a future. Minister Silva, you are a young man. I am a young man. We are the youths of this generation. Our whole life is still in front of us. In fact, as a matter of fact, we haven't lived half of our life. Our future is still in front of us. And most of you watching us right now, the youths, most of you, we are young people. Our future is still in front of us. Mr. Biya has lived his life. That man does not have a future. So to him, he doesn't care. He will sell that country. He will do anything to sell the country to the West, to France. Of course, he has nothing to lose, you see. And this is the kind of people the international community want. These are the kind of people the European Union, they want. France want in power, because they know they will always succumb and submit to their ill wills. Now, when we talk about international hypocrisy, we want to address these things, because what we see is Minister Silva, I'll give you time to break it down, sir. Let me just flow, please. What
right
we see
on,
is
right
this.
on.
Remember what happened to Gaddafi? They said Gaddafi was a dictator. He was killing his people. He was doing this. He was doing that. The international community, the United Nations, USA and other allies, they sent their forces to invade Libya. They destroyed that beautiful country in the name of they wanted to pull down a dictator. I was watching an interview the other day when President Obama said that was one of the greatest mistakes he ever made, to intervene in Libya, because it was a coup plan by France. Now, let's see this conspiracy. At one situation, they said they were pulling down a dictator because he was killing the people. But the reality and the truth of the whole matter is because Gaddafi was a wise man. Gaddafi refused to submit and to sell his people and to sell the future, the lives of his people to the West. Gaddafi said, I will not succumb to France. And this is somebody who had plans for Africa. As a matter of fact, this is somebody who was against those this colonial system of France implementing the CFR in Africa. So France, of course, and the European Union, they knew that if this guy implements his ideas, they won't be eating again the way they are eating fatly from Africa. So what did they do? They supported the killing of Gaddafi in the name of he is a dictator. Okay, come on. How? I want to ask you a question, and I want to ask this question to the international community. If you are not hypocrites, how come you were able to kill Gaddafi and you are not able to kill Mr. Biya? How come you were able to intervene in Libya, saying that you want to stop a dictator from killing his people? Mr. Biya, the dictator of La République du Cameroon in West Africa. Let me give you the address in case you don't know. How come he has been killing people for the past 3 years? This is the 4th year. Biya has constantly been killing people. In fact, when dictators like Biya, when they go out to kill people, they say they are fighting terrorism. I want to ask the international community, who is the terror here? Let Mr. Biya define to us who the terror is. He is the terror. He marches into the West Cameroon, into Ambazonia, and he's killing innocent people, burning down villages. They are burning people alive, and the international community will sit quiet. They will not intervene. All they can do, all we'll get from the United Nations is some 2 sentences of note. Let there be inclusive dialogue. Look at Guterres. I want to address Guterres and the so-called Patricia Scotland. Patricia Scotland, she's, to me, in fact, I'm sorry to say this, but this is my own opinion. I'm saying this as a human being, and I think I have the right to my own opinion. What I'm trying to say is, I just think these guys, when you see them go to Cameroon, to La République du Cameroon, they are just excited about the gifts, the gold gifts that Mr. Biya gives them. I've always seen her go there. Whenever she goes there, she collects her own statues. She collects gifts. But what I'm seeing is this. What I'm seeing is this. This is the hypocrisy. These are the hypocritical actions of the international community. Patricia Scotland will enjoy flying to La République du Cameroon, smile and collect gifts from Mr. Biya. When people are dying, tell me, do these lives matter to people at the international community? When people are dying in their hundreds weekly? Yes,
you won't imagine that most of them, even most of these diplomats that live in the name of, you know, going to really find out what is happening with the Ambazonian crisis, most of them will always end in La République. At times, they don't even, you know, go to where the real, you know, crisis is going on. And these are people who like go to La République because they want to know about the crisis. But at the end of the day, they don't even go to where the crisis is, and that is another aspect of hypocrisy, because you can't be claiming that, you know, you are going to investigate an issue and then you go and end in La République, and you don't go to find out from the people who are, you know, going through the crisis, the people who are feeling the pinch of what is happening, and then you go back and claiming that you have gone to, you know, investigate, you know, what is happening. So that is another aspect of, you know, this hypocrisy. Yeah.
Listen, it's a shame to the international community. And I will say it, and I will say it again and again. Let me say something. I read once that Mr. Biya refused to grant the international community access to Cameroon to investigate the allegations.
Yeah, I think that was the Amnesty International, the lady from Amnesty International that was blocked from the Douala airport and repatriated back. That was someone that was coming with a genuine intention. So you will see that La Republic knows those that are out there in the international community that can, that can expose all their evils. And so when the true people that can expose what is happening in Ambazonia comes into the country, they do everything to, block them from not getting the truth and exposing their evils to the world. But when those ones that come just to collect their golden, gift and other things comes into La Republic, they welcome them. They have their parties and they enjoy themselves, and then they go back in the name of, we were there to ask Mr. Biya to dialogue, and that is all about it. Hypocrisy.
See, this is gross hypocrisy. I want to say something. La République du Cameroun is a signatory and is a state member to the United Nations. It's a state member to the Commonwealth. As a matter of fact, Amnesty International is there to defend human rights, and we know that investigators like those of the Amnesty International, they have the right to go to crisis areas like this to investigate matters. Now, let me ask you a question. La République will arrest an investigator from the Amnesty International and repatriate him or her back without facing any consequence from the international community? You mean Dictator Biya has the right to do whatsoever he wants with anybody, and all he will receive from the international community is a simple sentence that go and dialogue, go and do inclusive dialogue? Listen, I appreciate the Americans and I appreciate America for coming in and for taking bold steps. We see them they are going beyond talking right now. They have started issuing sanctions against Dictator Biya and his nation. But to me, my own personal opinion, I think this is very late. Listen, I talked about crisis prevention. The first thing I mentioned was crisis prevention. They didn't have to wait for 4 years before taking these measures. And this is just one of the actions we are seeing that the United States is exhibiting against La République du Cameroun. But to me, in as much as that's good and okay, it's coming at a point of time which is, to me, I think is very late. Now, what I want to say is this, dear televiewers, and those of you watching from wherever, and I am mostly from sub-Saharan Africa, I want to say that this conspiracy or this hypocrisy that is being played at the international table is something we must address. Of course, you might say you have nothing to do, you have no role, you are just an individual, but I think we all collectively have an important role to play. Because we see these things, they keep repeating themselves, repeatedly happening in other parts of the world. We are taking Ambazonia as a vivid example because it concerns and affects us, the people. What I really want us to understand is that nobody will come from outside to help us. That's why Mr. Nancho, I 100% support the self-defense system that was introduced by the Indian government. Because waiting on the international community, we all would die. Our families would die. And if anybody dares to say we are terrorists because we are defending our territory. Yes, sir.
Have you forgotten that when this crisis started, the United Kingdom, that is Britain, whom we were looking like one of those, that could step in to look into this issue because they are, they are very involved when it comes to the history of Southern Cameroon. We were expecting Britain, to step in to see how this could be resolved, but they were very passive and complacent about everything, and they were just so quiet. Instead, we heard of the British government signing an oil deal, for 2 years with La Republique, which means that these people, all what they care about is what they can get, from Africa. That is all what they care about. They don't care about, whether we are killed or not. And if we look critically, we'll discover that this manipulation that is happening in Africa, whereby leaders kill their own people, all this stems from, this Western world, whom we are even thinking that they are the people that can someday help, in resolving this crisis. So that is why we, like you rightly said, that is why we must never put our hope, on the Western world. We must put our hope in God and God. We must trust God, believing that when we fight, he's going to defend us in this revolution. He is going to be the one, to fight and back us to overcome La Republique and establish our freedom. Because if we look at the actions of the international community, they have been speaking, but where have they taken measures, to do some things that can make Mr. Biya of La République du Cameroon, to know that, it is very expedient he ends this war and withdraw his troops from Ambazonia. They have done nothing serious. They have taken no action. They keep talking of dialogue. When will they stop singing this song of dialogue that they have been singing since 2017 and nothing is happening? And they keep singing it, and Mr. Biya is carrying on a genocide in Ambazonia. So these people are hypocrites. We must look up to God, Mr. Nanchop, and like you rightly said, stand with the interim government and, empower self-defense, because nobody will fight for us, but we will fight, and believe God to defend us, to overcome the enemy. So we should never think that the international community would one day help us in this revolution.
There is a famous statement we usually say those days when we're kids. We often say, prevention is better than cure. Sometimes it's easy to believe that some people are making business out of this crisis. Mostly,
that's right,
in countries like Ambazonia or in the Middle East, because I won't understand why we will have institutions. They have their role to play. And when they are badly needed, when they should go to action and bring results, they stay dormant. And all what we see from them is 2 sentences of notes. They just put out there and say, we encourage national dialogue. Now, can you imagine the international community is talking about there should be an inclusive dialogue in La Republique and whatsoever. Meanwhile, Dictator Biya is perpetrating a war. This is a war. They should not forget, Mr. Biya said he has declared war. War. And you cannot be telling somebody to go and he has declared war on the people. Now, to those who claim that we are part of La Republique, which nation in this world, tell me, have you ever heard Donald Trump came out and say, I'm going to declare war on California? Did you hear Donald Trump come up and say, I'm going to declare war on Maryland? I'm going to declare war on Florida? No. You declare war on your enemies. This is, we should get some facts here. Just the terminologies that are being used by Dictator Biya is an affirmation and a confirmation to us that there are 2 separate countries, because he's declaring war on Ambazonians, on the people who are barely seeking for their human rights to be respected. And yet, all what the international community will say and do is, let there be dialogue. Now, the first thing you will do if you come and see somebody cutting me with a machete, would you say, no, you both should dialogue? Would you first try to stop that person from wounding me before you even try to settle the matter? What is this hypocrisy all about? This talking and writing notes every day and doing nothing is nonsense. I'm sorry, I'm becoming so emotional, but I think I have the right to become emotional because we are talking about precious lives of people. Listen, it is not time for any gentility here, because when I see old mothers, women being burnt in their houses, I see children as young as baby Mata shot dead. 3 months old child will be shot dead. I see villages being roasted, people are being killed, and yet all what we get from the international community is requesting from Mr. Biya, Dictator Biya, who has been in power for over 40 years, to go and hold some peace talks. I believe every rational thinking person will say, no, let's stop this war. Let's intervene. I think the first thing would be for the United Nations Security Council to step into Ambazonia, to stop the war, before they should even be thinking of making recommendations for peace talks and whatsoever. But because of this hypocrisy, yes, we come back to the topic of the day, hypocrisy. Dear televiewers, our topic of today is Ambazonians must overcome every hypocrisy in this revolution. We must overcome it. We have no choice. When I use the statement must, it means to me, we are bound to take this decision. We have no choice at this particular moment. We must overcome this international hypocrisy. And of course, we are going to talk about the internal hypocrisy. And to me, I believe that the international bodies are not playing their role rightly. I appreciate those who are trying to do their best. Thank God for the lady who came to the interview with Secretary Chris the other day. I mean, that's what we love for people. Madam Rebecca, of the goodwill and the good work she's trying to do. Of course, such people always seek for peace because they respect human lives. We appreciate those bodies. But what about the African Union? I mean, we are talking about something happening in the continent, and we have a toothless bulldog called African Union. And they will just sit there for over 3 years. They haven't, it's just now that we are recently getting them saying some things, but yet they aren't taking any actions. I think this international conspiracy and this international hypocrisy is something we must address, seriously. And dear televiewers,
Mr. Nanchop,
it's hypocrisy to see. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's right. Did you want to say something before we continue?
I just wanted to make this statement that it's hypocrisy to see the truth and yet choose to believe. It's hypocrisy to see the truth and yet choose to believe in lies or in myths, because we have the images out there. The United Nations, the African Union, Amnesty International, United States, Great Britain, and other countries in the world, they can't tell me that they are not seeing these images out there, because these images speaks for themselves. When I see, me as a normal, rational thinking person, when I sit in my little corner and I switch on my TV or my Facebook and I see these images of mass graves, people being slaughtered and being killed, I see women and children being raped and being killed, just because a person who is called Mr. Biya wants to stay in power. As a matter of fact, do you know that dictators always try to, in their countries, they control the media flow? Do you know that even in Cameroon, in La République du Cameroon, the so-called CRTV, they have been hiding these images and the reality from the people. They have been hiding the truth and the reality from the people. Not until late 2018 that they even started reporting about some of the things that are happening in the country. That's why if you go to other parts of the country, people never knew why the African Nations Cup never took place. They had to bring up a frame-up story. They had to come up with other ideas, but because of this internal crisis. And you see, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that this is hypocrisy. When you see media houses not doing their jobs rightly, like the CRTV, we also saw some journalists who even tried to report about this genocide going on in Ambazonia. They were put behind bars. They were put in chains. And yet, nobody will talk. Nobody will come to their rescue. What is happening to this world? What is coming over this world, for Christ's sake?
Mr. Nanchop, you must understand that, like you rightly said, we have understood all these things, and if we look critically, looking at the international community, looking at the international, media houses, we'll discover that all these, things are linked together. All these things are linked together. Look, for example, let me go back to France. France has been very quiet somehow since this revolution. All the major actors whom we even thought that could step in, the United Nations, Great Britain, and France have been very, passive when it comes to this Ambazonian revolution. And we know that all this is as a result of what they gain, behind the scene, which, we know. It's not like we don't know these things. We know it's all about what they are gaining from, from Africa and, from Ambazonia, because all of what they gain is coming from Ambazonia. It's not even from La Republique. So look like a country, because all these countries that we are, are citing here that are being hypocritical, if these nations, Mr. Nanchop, if they want Mr. Biya down tomorrow, they will do it. If they decide and say Mr. Biya is not gonna be the president of, La Republique the next day, or Mr. Biya should liberate Ambazonia tomorrow, they will do it. Look, for example, what happened with Laurent Gbagbo in Ivory Coast. Did it take up to 1 year for France to, to out Laurent Gbagbo? It didn't take up to 1 year, because they knew that Ouattara, that was the person that they wanted, will still abide to their agenda, which is still exploiting that part of Africa. And that is why they ousted Laurent Gbagbo. It didn't take long for them. So they always want to look at where their interest is. They know Ambazonians are very educated people, and they know we're not gonna settle for any compromise. We want our nation, we want a free Ambazonia, whereby we will have the right to decide how our country should run or be governed. And so they know that these people know what they are fighting for. And that is why, you see all of them are somehow skeptical to even come maybe behind the scene to try to negotiate certain things with us, because they know we are not ready to take, to take anything that can take us to that point of slavery any longer. And so that is why you find these people behaving the way they are behaving. They will prefer to continue with La Republique, whom, has been like opening their doors for them to come in and get whatsoever they want. And that is why you see them still pretending and preserving, the dictator, Mr. Biya, in power, while pretending and saying that they want dialogue. All this thing is hypocrisy. It's hypocrisy, Mr. Nancho. So do you want to say something before we move to the next point? Well, which is internal hypocrisy. We have been talking on external hypocrisy, and the topic of this program is Ambazonians must overcome every hypocrisy in this revolution. So we have been talking on external hypocrisy. Do you want to say something before we move to the internal hypocrisies of this revolution?
Well, I think if I should continue to talk about the external hypocrisy, the point is I won't stop, because there are just so many examples and references we can give there. It's obvious to the people. Everyone can see them. These things are very clear. We all can see the degree of international conspiracy and hypocrisy that is being played out there. Well, but nevertheless, as you rightly said, today's topic is Ambazonians must overcome every hypocrisy in this revolution. It's not just about talking about these things. Most of the times, I'm always solution-oriented. I'm the kind of person where when I face a challenge or when I see a challenge, I always want to be very innovative to bring a solution. The point is, we don't just want to talk about these things, because the fact is these things are there. They are there. And these are the challenges we are having. These are the challenges we are facing. That this conspiracy, this hypocrisy is manifesting itself there in a gross manner. So what do we do? How do we face this challenge? Because the topic of our day today is Ambazonians must overcome every hypocrisy in this revolution. We'll come to that. But as you rightly say, perhaps we want to go to the next point, which is internal hypocrisy.
Yeah, Mr. Nanchop, not to cut you short, before we move to that, I just want you, if you're watching this edition of the Hour of Grace, just keep sharing and invite as many people as you can to watch the program. And The next point is internal hypocrisy. And I want to read a scripture because our main text for this program is the Bible. I call it the divine constitution. It has all what it takes to govern the operative dynamics of human beings with respect to whatever thing they want to accomplish in life. And that is why we have chosen the Bible to be our text of reference. So I'm going to be reading from Mark 7:6, which says, he replied, this is talking about Jesus Christ. He replied, Isaiah was right when he prophesied about you, hypocrites, as it is written, these people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. That was Jesus speaking. He said Isaiah was right, you know, when he prophesied about you, hypocrites, as it is written, these people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. Mr. Nanchop, if we look into this revolution, we will discover that it's not everybody who says, I am for this revolution. I am an Ambazonian that is truly for this revolution. And I believe you will really have much to talk about that, because when we look at this revolution, time and chance has revealed a lot of things, and a lot of people have been exposed. People who stood and said, oh, made a lot of noise on the social media, we are Ambazonians, we will fight this fight, it doesn't matter what it takes, we will fight this fight, we're not gonna give up, we can never sell out, you know, in this revolution. But today we see a lot of things happening. This scripture is simply making us understand that it's not all about what people say, it is what people do that makes us know who, you know, that really characteristics or that really personality is. So it is not all about what people, you know, say there on the social media. We are seeing a lot of actions by people who stood in this revolution, and we thought that these people were fighting for Ambazonia. But today, we are seeing the contrary. You know, most of these people, take for example, the so-called Success Congo, the so-called Nambere, whom I listened to a video that he claimed to be making today, saying that he's gonna, you know, use whatever money he has that was given to buy weapons to fight, you know, the ADF fighters, and then use some to go to the diaspora to fight those in the diaspora, and then go back to ground zero to fight for Ambazonia. That is somebody that is just from eating with the enemy. He is not just from eating, he is still eating with the enemy, and he thinks that he can come and play this hypocrisy and people will still, you know, listen to him. Those are some of the, you know, things when we look in this revolution, we should start, you know, being very careful the kind of people we align with in this revolution. Mr. Nanchop, I think there are so many of these examples, and you will have a lot to elaborate when it comes to this.
Let me break this thing down. Well, dear televiewers, we are talking about Ambazonians must overcome every hypocrisy in this revolution. We started by defining hypocrisy, or by categorizing hypocrisy as pertaining to the Ambazonian revolution. So we decided to break it down into two types of hypocrisy. We talked about the external hypocrisy, which we were talking about the international body. Now, we also talked about or made mention of the internal hypocrisy. Now, I want to really emphasize on this. We're going to take chair, we're going to take glass water, we'll broke the story in the proper. So when we talk about the internal hypocrisy, with that, I'm personally referring to the hypocritical actions of some Ambazonians in this revolution. I'll give you an example. You see, sometimes you see how many people are so confused. Today, some are like, I'm for the independence of Ambazonia. Tomorrow, some are for federalism. The same people that are talking about federalism, the next day they are for special status and national dialogue. And some of them sadly are so-called activists. Sadly, they are so-called activists. Today they are for this, tomorrow they are for this. You see, even the Bible says A man who is unstable in all his ways will never make progress. Today you don't even know what you want. Today you are this. So these are all hypocritical actions, and these are things that come in because people want to seek favor from others. They want to seek acceptance from others. Another thing I want to make mention of, and I want to give us a very good example, which I personally think is one of the key things we are having, or one of the core hypocritical actions of many people in this revolution. Even like most of you commenting, most of you watching, I really want this message to go through. I'll give an example. Many people are talking about peace and unity. You want peace and unity when your favorite tribesman activist, when he comes out there, somebody will say there should be peace and unity in the revolution. The leaders should come together. The leaders, there is no peace, there is no unity among the leaders. There is no unity among the Ambazonian leaders, and so on and so forth. You want unity. Okay, we all want unity. But the question is this: if you are really for unity, yet you have a particular tribesman or person or leader to whom you are paying allegiance. In fact, even if he does something that is wrong, you will not confront it, you will not condemn it just because you like him, or he's your tribesman, or he's your favorite leader, or he's your favorite talker or speaker. This is hypocrisy at its utmost manifestation. And I'm talking about hypocrisy in the house. We see people talk about there should be peace, there should be... Listen, I believe so much that the disunity we are seeing in this revolution, mostly among the leaders, or amongst the leaders, is being perpetrated by the followers of the leaders. Because if you go to Facebook, you don't need to be a magician. You don't need to be a soothsayer to see the comments some people are making. Somebody will come and is writing nonsense. This person is my... I'm sorry, I have to call names now. I don't want to call names. I just want to give it an example. Somebody will say, Ayaba is the man. He's my CIC. All other leaders must die. Chief pastors, fake pastors, this and this. When you make such utterances, when you make such statements, you are not promoting the unity you are seeking. You are not promoting, you are not building the foundation for the unity you want. And then you are the same person that will come tomorrow and say, the leaders are not united. When you go and you chair the leaders who are doing evil, you don't condemn them. I want to say something. I want to give you some example, Minister Silva. We've seen some activists and some leaders, and I want to call him. Go to Ayabacho's wall. See the things Ayabacho is posting. Ayabacho will write. I respect him as a human being because I respect every person. But he has lost my respect for leadership. I'm sorry to say this on national TV. But what am I trying to say? Because if you go to his wall, you will see, you will paste something. Let's take out the fake pastors. Let's destroy this. Let the ADF go and attack this group. And then you will hear Ambazonians are commenting and sharing that. Now, the question I'm asking myself, if you are allowing a group, ADF, to go and attack another Ambazonian force on ground zero, are they not our brothers? What are we thinking? This is hypocrisy.
Mr. Nanchok.
If you allow,
Mr. Nanchok,
yes, sir.
That is, I'm really touched by what you are saying, because that is not just hypocrisy, but that is, evil. That is wickedness in the highest order. How can someone who claims to be fighting for a people turn and start killing those people, and he calls himself that he is a freedom fighter? He calls himself that he is fighting to liberate, to free a people, and then you turn your own weapons against those people? That is not just hypocrisy, Mr. Nanchok. It is wickedness. And if you look critically, the devil has hardened these people's heart, and they think that what they are doing is right. Like it is often said that when the devil blinds you, whatsoever thing you do, you might really think that you are on the right track, not knowing that you are, causing evil, not just because what they are doing is going to turn back, on them. So all these hypocrites, all these evil actions that they carry and against Ambazonians, instead of the enemy, La Republic, is going to turn against them. Right on, Mr. Nanchok.
Minister Silva, what I would recognize that as hypocrisy is their followers sharing such messages. Now, let me give another example. Just of recent, we had this young guy in the US. How did they call him again? The one who used to work with Mark Barata. That is his name again. Tapang Ivo.
Tapang?
I saw
Yeah.
a shocking image of Tapang Ivo talking about they should be kidnapping bushfallers, they should be kidnapping people's family back home to demand for ransom. And this is somebody who is allegedly supposed to be a spokesman for the ADF, the so-called whatsoever defense force. But now I want to say something. And you will hear people who cherish, some people will cherish that, some people will clap to such wordings. Is that not hypocrisy? I mean, when they go and catch somebody's father or mother or their families back home, and they are, or some I also heard some other activists saying they should go and chop people's hands, and you will see some people are supporting those actions. And then they are the ones that will come back tomorrow and say that, no, this and this is happening, this and this is happening. To me, it's just pure hypocrisy, because I believe those kind of things are things that we, the Ambazonians, we need to call them to order. And I thank God for the interim government of Ambazonia, because they don't take side on those things. They condemn those actions. Because I personally, I don't think anybody on his normal senses will accept and promote those kind of things. I mean, and we see a lot of people sharing such things. They are promoting it, they are cheering it, they are clapping. They even go and watch those shows. I want to challenge all those who are saying that there should be unity amongst the leaders in this revolution. If truly we, the Ambazonians, who want that the leaders should sit on the table, then we shouldn't be pointing at a particular leader. Most of the times I see them, they say, what has the interim government done to promote unity? The same people who are saying that, they are those who are supporting some other frontline leaders. They don't have that boldness and courage to ask their leaders that they are supporting that, what have you done? I want to challenge those who are for Ayabacho. How many of you have called Ayabacho and said, Ayabacho, what have you done to promote unity in this revolution? We've heard series of times, Secretary Chris said it the other day, before Sisiko, when he was making his government, he reached out to Ayabacho. Dr. Sako and the rest, they have reached out to Ayabacho to at least say, come and take the Department of Defense. He said, no, he must be the leader. He wants to be the top. He wants to be the Oga at the top. If he's not a leader, he will not support the movement. He goes behind and he's sending his soldiers and fighters to kill people. And yet, Ambazonians don't say something wrong with that. Ambazonians sit quiet and they are clapping for him. Wait until he kills your own brother or your sister or your mother, because you are cheering him when he's killing others. You think, listen, all of us are Ambazonians. Every one of us, our life matters. I think the life of each and every one of us matter. Every day, you don't know how I weep when I look at those images of the young boys and girls who are dying. I lie on my bed. Sometimes I don't even know when tears is coming out of my eyes. I feel for them. This could be me. Perhaps you have the opportunity to be out of the country right now. You are seeking refuge somewhere. But La Republic is killing our people. And our own brothers, just because of ego and self-pride, they are going out there to kill our people again. And some of you, all you can do is to cheer them and clap for them. To me, that is gross hypocrisy.
Mr. Nancho, by now, I think Ambazonians should know that, like what the Titus 1:6 says, that they claim to know God, but their actions deny him. They claim to know God, but their actions deny him. You know, it's not whosoever claims to be an Ambazonian or that claims to be a leader in this revolution. By now, I think Ambazonians must have seen the actions of so many in this revolution and know the true people who are standing, you know, to fight for the freedom of Ambazonia. If you have a leader who is, you know, inspiring fighters on the ground or influencing fighters on the ground to go and kill other Ambazonians, judge for yourself whether that leader is a true leader of this revolution. Whenever have we heard any leader from the interim government, you know, asking for restoration forces to go and kill other fighters or go and arrest or go and kidnap people for ransom? It has never happened. Instead, they keep breaking new grounds every day. Those in the interim government, they keep, you know, trusting God for open doors to see how they can, you know, bring other people together to see how we can shorten this revolution and get to Goya faster. How else do we want to see true leaders in this revolution? Their actions speak louder than what? Titus 1:6 says they claim to know God, but their actions deny him. There are so many people who claim to be Ambazonians, but their actions are revealing to us every day that these people are not Ambazonians. What they do, what they say every day is revealing to us that they are not Ambazonians. What else do we want to see Ambazonians to really know
You know
those
the
that God
funniest
has
thing,
called to pilot this revolution? What else do we really want to see? No, man.
Minister Silva,
Yeah.
but I don't try to calm down myself. You see, I don't fold my arms. I want to relax because when we think about these things, no, to be real, with the normal human mind, there are some things that my brain cannot debug them. I cannot conceptualize them. I cannot understand them. Let me give you a simple example. You have an activist who come up, somebody like Eric Tato. I'm going to call names. If this guy has been so controversial in his report, you hear him make statements like, I mean, if you check him just of recent, he's constantly reporting about Cameroon. He uses the word Cameroon. He uses the word Cameroon more than Ambazonia. And this is somebody who will come and tell you that he is for the Ambazonian cause. And sometimes if you watch his shows, he will come in the first 2 minutes, he will say, I am for Ambazonia. I am for the independence of Ambazonia. The next minute, the things he is saying are totally against what he said a few minutes ago. And yet you have people promoting that. I wonder, Ambazonians, why are we so full of hypocrisy? Why can't we confront these things and say, listen, bro, this thing you are saying is nonsense. Instead of cheering him and clapping at them, say, oh, good talk, this, yeah, oh. Listen, there is something like past glory. Some people are still living on their past glory. I will not deny the fact that some activists were very good in the beginning. And that's why some of you abonnate them and you were following them. But right now they have lost everything. And some of us that cannot differentiate or distinguish these things, we are hypocrites. And I believe that even me, Mr. Nanchop, if I should come out tomorrow and say something that is not constructive or productive to this revolution, each and every one of you have the right to challenge me and to confront me and say, hey, bro, that's wrong. And that's what I want. That's the spirit I want in Ambazonia. We are talking about Ambazonians must overcome this hypocrisy or every hypocrisy in this revolution. Listen, you can never overcome that which you tolerate. I want to be real. We can never overcome that which we tolerate. As long as we keep tolerating such things, we keep tolerating some activists to come out there to confuse us with lies tellings, to make evil utterances. They say things. In fact, some of these activists, they are the ones that are bringing so much confusion and fightings amongst the leaders. Yet, we don't address those things. As the people, we tolerate them. Some of you, when they come and talk, you just see and you just stay quiet. You are tolerating it. That's hypocrisy. Because when we confront those things and tell them, no, I want to see what happened, I will just see just of recent. He came out, made some utterances that are very detrimental to this revolution. Now, the international community, when they look at that, they'll be thinking, oh, these are what these people are up to. But I want to see us Ambazonians come out there with the hashtag against Tapan and his genocidal actions. Or when the ADF, they make an utterance. Ayabacho is saying it every day on his wall. He's making commands for fighters to attack other camps of other fighters, my brothers and sisters. And some of you are liking it, you are sharing it, you are happy about it. Some of you, deep in your conscience, you know that that is wrong. But because you have sidelined yourself to Ayabacho, you have become his baby puppets. Everything he says, even if it is wrong, you just accept it. Is that not hypocrisy? I said we can never overcome that which we don't confront. And that which we tolerate, we will never overcome it. Today's topic is overcoming every, I did not say some, I did not say partial, I said every hypocrisy in this revolution. And that will begin when you and me start attacking these things and telling our leaders, whosoever it be, I don't care. Listen, I took my phone once and I told Dr. Sako, I said, listen, sir, so long you remain faithful to this revolution and to this cause, we will stand behind you.
Yeah.
But the day you will start going against the will of the people and against this cause, we will be against you. And I'm saying this to each and every one of you. To those of you who are paying your loyalty to whatsoever the leader it is, it be, or you like, or whatsoever, I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that. But I have a problem with you not facing the facts and not carrying the boldness to confront them when they say things and do things that are wrong. That's hypocrisy. And we must be able to overcome that nonsense. That means we must be able to confront them, question them. How many of you have the right and the audacity and the boldness to confront your leaders? Why are we afraid of them? This is the internal hypocrisy we are addressing. And I believe, Minister Silva, as you rightly said, we must start confronting these things if we want to overcome them.
Someone just commented, Mr. Nanchop, and said, not everyone that sings the Ambazonian anthem, the Ambazonian national anthem, is for Ambazonia, and that is true. It's just like it's not everyone out there that sings, you know, the name Ambazonia is really for Ambazonia. That is why Galatians 6:3 says, if anyone thinks they are something when they are not, they deceive themselves. So, Mr. Nanchop, all this we are saying just because we want to keep reminding our people of those that are genuinely fighting for the sake of Ambazonians, for the sake of the freedom of the 8 million Ambazonians. So that is why we are saying all these things. But we know that in as much as we are saying it, they are just deceiving themselves, because at the end of the day, like Jesus said, it's not everyone that calls my name that shall enter the kingdom of God. It's not everyone that is singing Ambazonia, Ambazonia that will enter the promised land. That is our promised land, Boya. It's not everyone. So, and we are beginning to know them by their actions. All these people who are causing a lot of atrocity in this revolution, but every day they pretend they are fighting. But I asked an activist, Mr. Nanchop, I asked him that there are names that I don't even feel like, you know, calling those names, because it's not worth it coming out from my mouth. I asked him, I said, evaluate all what you have been doing. You come out every day in this revolution for about 4 months now, and instead of pointing your weapons against the enemy, you turn them against, you know, Ambazonians, and yet it is causing a lot of havoc, and you don't see anything wrong in that. Just imagine. People like that, do you think they are really fighting for this cause? People should be able to evaluate what they have been doing to see how much it has helped to advance the revolution. When people start looking at things like that, especially those people who sing a lot of songs out there, you know, when they start seeing, you know, when they start looking at things from that perspective, I believe they're really gonna change, because you come out every day and you pretend to be for the revolution, yet for about 4 months, all what you do is insulting Ambazonians, insulting leaders who are having sleepless nights to see that, you know, we overcome the enemy. All what you do is to look for new skills or new lies to come and tear or to come and use to fight, you know, Ambazonians, not the enemy. Mr. Nanchop,
and
when I see things like this happen,
with that.
Like you said, the highest hypocrites are those that follow these people and even encourages them. Those are the highest hypocrites in this revolution, because for anyone that is reasonable will sit and say, but this person, I've been following this person for up to, you know, how 4 or 5 months since this person started, you know, this approach. It has not worked. Why should I keep following this person? Every day a person comes out and all he does is insulting people. All he shows is about insulting people, and people think that they should still align with people like that. That is really hypocrisy in the highest order, Mr. Nanchop. That is hypocrisy in the highest order.
Well,
and
I know we are about to.
Yeah.
I know we are about to round.
Yeah, we are about. Yeah, we are about to round up with the program, and we have been looking at external and internal hypocrisy in the Ambazonian revolution. And like we said, what even is more painful is not even the external, because we, like we said, we know the external, the international community is all about their interests first, and but what baffles us, what beats our imagination, are, you know, people who pretend, you know, like Judas Iscariot, that pretended to be with Jesus, but yet was the one that sold Jesus. We are talking of people like that, because like you rightly said, people who have kept this revolution, a little bit slow, and not, people from La Republic. It's not even Mr. Bia. It is the same people who pretend that they are for this revolution, Mr. Nancho. Those are the people that have slowed down this revolution. I'm telling you, because if those
Minister
people
Silva,
could catch the
yeah, if those people, just finish your sentence, please, sir.
If those people could catch the revelation of what this revolution is all about and walk in line with the vision of this revolution, I think we would have been celebrating in Boya now.
I know we are about to round up, and for those who joined the show late, for those who are just coming in, the topic of today has been Ambazonians must overcome every hypocrisy in this revolution. Now, I want to give a short recap of all what we'll be discussing, because I think it's very important for us to understand what we are saying and to remain in context. Because if somebody just came in at a particular point where I was very emotional, or where you were very emotional, Minister Silva, and perhaps we were saying using some harsh words, they'll be thinking, what are these guys talking about? What are these guys really saying? Are they trying to be insultive? Are they trying to be sarcastic or whatsoever? No. The point is this. We've understood the fact that the life of a man is the result of the sum total of his decisions. And what we must understand is, when we talk about hypocrisy, we've addressed the external factors, or we've addressed the external hypocrisy, where we talked about the international community not doing their job rightly, not doing that which they are supposed to do, always seeking for their interest, mostly like we are talking about the genocide in Amazonia and the actions of Dictator Bia, yet we are still to get actions from the international community. We've just gotten the US said something, they promise as from the 1st of January 2020 to make this sanction proclaim on La Republique to become effective. We saw La Republique send a gang of armed robbers to the United States to go and beg them. Well, that's not part of our topic. But we are seeing this hypocrisy that the international community, they are not doing their job. They are not acting the way they ought to be acting. They are not acting rightly. They will not wait for people to die, for lives to be wasted before they come at the end to say, oh, now we are coming. This is what happened in Rwanda. We said the genocide that took place in Rwanda took place within the space of 3 months or 4 months, from the 7th of April 1994 through July 1994. What were they doing? This is not something that just came up overnight. It is something that had gradually evolved. But because, as usual, the international community will just fold their arms and they will do nothing about it. Now we are seeing the same thing happening in Ambazonia. We are seeing the same thing repeating itself in Ambazonia. Brothers and sisters, this is, or these are the international actions that we don't like, that don't correspond. And these are the things we say they are being hypocritical to their institutions. But nevertheless, we've also addressed the internal hypocrisy, where we talked about people who are supporting some leaders just because they want to support them, even when the leaders are doing wrong, or who are supporting some activists, maybe because they are their tribesmen, or because they like them, or because of, I said they are related to them. I talk about nepotism and the West. You just favor them, you just like them because you are familiar with them or whatsoever. Listen, we are in a revolution. Most of you don't know me. Most of you watching, I don't even know you in person. But I have a feeling for you because you are my brother and you are my sister. If anything happens to you, it happens to me because you are an Ambazonian. And I believe so much that your life is of precious importance to me and to the world. And of course, your life is a precious gift from God. So why on earth will I disregard that factor and command for someone to kill you or to cut your hands. Just because I want to maintain my ego, or a position, or because I want to stay in position, I want to be in command, because I want to maintain my relevance. When our people are dying at ground zero, some of us are here in Europe playing relevance game, and the worst of all is that most of the Ambazonians are supporting them. They are clapping for them. We have a few people messing up there, and we are clapping for them. Brothers and sisters, to me, these actions are hypocritical actions, because you cannot say you are for Ambazonia and yet you are fighting against the Ambazonians. Who are you for? You see. So, brothers and sisters, I know people are commenting, and some, as usual, you always have, I'm sorry to use these terms, stupid people who will not use their brain to reason that what we are saying is right. They will just follow emotions and start commenting and saying nonsense. But the truth is, the topic of today is Ambazonians must overcome every hypocrisy in this revolution. Now, when we don't know something, we live in ignorance. Maybe you never knew that these things you were doing or we were doing were hypocritical actions and they're not good. But now, we've called this knowledge to existence. Now we know these things. So, my plea and my prayer to us, the Ambazonian people, is to think rationally. Don't think out of emotions. Don't think because you want to support somebody just because you are related to the person or some. No. Whatsoever good we are doing it to ourselves as Ambazonians. We are doing it to ourselves. We have a common enemy. We must not always agree with our strategies, but at least we must respect each other and, of course, respect our lives. Do you really want the Europeans and the international community to respect our lives? Then we must start respecting our own lives. We must start cherishing our own lives. If a leader of a camp will receive an order from whosoever from abroad to go and destroy or attack another camp, the first question, you as a fighter at ground zero, I want you to ask that person, that is that person you are telling me to go and attack, is he an Ambazonian? Is he my brother? Has this war become a war of Ambazonia against Ambazonia or Ambazonia against La Republique? Talk to your leader and tell him, I'm ashamed of you. I will not take such orders from you. If you talk sense to that leader, believe me, you are overcoming hypocrisy. Yes, because if you will just follow that order and go and do those things, even though you know deep in you that is wrong, that's being a hypocrite. Because you are not sidelining with that which you know is correct and is the truth. So, brothers and sisters, let's stop all these emotional games we play on social media. I think it's high time that we become mature, and we expect mature people to do things maturely. So I think it's time we start addressing these factors, because we can never overcome this internal hypocrisy without confronting it, brothers and sisters. We can never. Let's stop this sidelining games, this favoritism game we are playing on social media. Listen, whosoever you think you are paying your allegiance to or you are supporting as your frontline leader and you love him, I personally, Mr. Nanchop, I have no issues with that. But all I'm trying to say is, be bold enough to question him and to hold him to accountability. If he says or does something wrong, challenge him. What I want to see is, if a leader, whosoever that may be, goes out there, be it Akwanga, Bo Herbert, or whosoever, Ayabacho, or your favorite activist, be it me, I come out there and I say something that is stupid and that does not constructively support our revolutionary cause, you have the right to challenge me constructively. Don't just go and press like because you think it's coming from Mr. Nanchop and you like him. No, challenge me and say this is wrong, Mr. Nanchop. And this is the kind of spirit I want to see in Ambazonia, where we will challenge the wrongs in order to overcome them. We don't play lobbying. We don't play love games with them. Challenge the wrongs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nanchop. I think we have come to the end of this program, and I want to say whatsoever thing you are doing in this revolution as a frontline leader or as an activist or whatsoever, try to reflect, what history will record about you. Because when you start thinking of things like that, then I believe you will do the right things so that history should not record negativity about you. Because I want us to know that history is recording everything each and every one of us is doing in this revolution, and it's gonna one day bounce back on us. So if you're asking, Ambazonians to kill, one another, if you are, influencing fighters on the ground to turn their weapons from the enemy to their brothers, know that one day these things will all bounce back on you, because history is recording everything. At least when we look at people like the Atang and Jipos, all those ones, people like the movies who pretended to kneel down and shed crocodile tears, and people like Chief, how do they call that other one in Mamfe, Chief? What's that his name again?
Just go on, my brother. Their names are not important.
Yeah, Chief Tabe Tando. Yeah, Chief Tabe Tando. I think that's the name. Those are people who are IDPs, Ambazonian IDPs, who are eating with the enemy. Those ones, when people like that play their hypocrisy, it doesn't really move us much. But it really pains when we see people who pretend to be for the revolution playing hypocrisy. That is where it really, beats my thinking and my imagination. Yeah. So I really think that whosoever is doing whatever or playing whatever role in this revolution should reconsider what they do in this revolution. It's not all about the talking. They should reconsider what they do. If you have sold your soul to the enemy and he is using you against this revolution, I usually say there is still room for change. There is always still room for change. So fellow televiewers, we thank you for the time you have taken to watch this program, and we look forward to seeing you in the next edition of this program. And we will always keep bringing inspiring topics that will help educate you on what is happening in the revolution, and will bring you closer to God's mind for the revolution, because it is a God-ordained revolution. And I want to assure you again that we are on track, and Boya is not far from where we are right now. God bless you. Mr. Nanchok, one last word.
Well, dear televiewers, you are always the best. As I always say, Ambazonia first. And the truth is this. Our destiny is in our hands. We have to choose the path, and we have chosen the path. Just like Minister Silva said, we should understand that history will remember us. So to those of you who are commenting, and I see a name there, Ayok Echu, he has been consistently very negative in his comments. I've been following it up. I just want to tell you something, my brother. You are an Ambazonian and you are important. But we are not here to promote, personalities or whatsoever. We are promoting a nation, and we want to build strong institutions. So keep your childishness away, and let's work together to build a country. And let's fight that which is evil. Let's lead our lives with good conscience. Let's do that which we are doing with good conscience. We are not talking about being from what tribe or from what country or a tribesman. No. I just want us to know that this is a nation we are all building together, because we've had enough from our enemies. We've been tormented for years. Our parents, our grandparents, they've suffered a lot. So we, the young people, you are a young man. We are all young people. We should not be fighting ourselves. You see, we should face our consciences and face the realities. Build a future. Leave a legacy for the younger generation. We want to build a foundation for the younger generation. And how best can we do it if we remain hypocrites, if we are not just and honest to ourselves? I've always said that, do we really want justice? Then we should start by implementing justice for ourselves, by being just to ourselves. We can't be living in dead consciences and we want others to judge us, to help us with right consciences. It cannot work that way, Ambazonians. And don't forget, the topic of today was Ambazonians must overcome every hypocrisy. We must overcome those things. It's a must. That's the way forward. Even in our individual lives, I want to challenge you. Let's not be hypocritical in our actions. Always trying to take favoritism and to give it a chance or whatsoever, nepotism and all this nonsense. No. Brothers and sisters, we are one. And I've always said it, this weekly program, Hour of Grace, is that inspirational show on ABC that is being drawn from the Word of God. We bring moral inspiration. We bring revolutionary inspirations. And I want you to always stay in connection with us, stay tuned with us on every Sunday evening. You know, today we started a little bit early because another show is coming up after this. But normally we are always on at 20 o'clock at 8 p.m. Amber time. 8 p.m. Amber time on Sundays. So I thank you so much for those of you who are watching. Please click on the share buttons. For those who have missed the show, who've missed the contents of the show, please click on the share buttons and, of course, share it to them, invite them to watch. Thank you so much for those of you watching at Ground Zero. Yesterday was our Heroes Day and our Warriors Day, per se. I still won't stop to thank you, our brothers in the jails, in the prisons, mothers and fathers, fighters. I can't overemphasize my love and thanks to you people and for you people, because you guys are just being so great. Of course, even if others who want to be sellouts in this revolution, I want you to understand that you have people like us. You still have people who will stand with you, who will stand. Even if we have to stand like the Joshuas, we will stand with you because we understand your pains, we understand your sufferings. Yes, we are with you in body, soul, and spirit. Thank you, Minister Silva.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nanchop, and thank you, televiewers. See you in the next edition of the Hour of Grace. Goodbye and have a blessed Sunday. Bye.
Bye.
Hi, somebody. That's the money, Mr. Jagger.
Dr. G.
Only to my testimony of what the Lord has done for me. My eyes have seen, my eyes have heard of His goodness and His mercy. Hold on. Give me life, give me peace. I wonder what I did that makes you love me like this. Oh Lord, oh, give me life, give me peace. I can't deny what you did. You make my life sweeter, man. I will call you different name like call you Jehovah Nisi, Jehovah Nisi. I will call you Jehovah Jireh, Jehovah Jireh. I will call you Jehovah Eloi, Jehovah Eloi. Me papa me oh. Let me tell you this circle, I call you Lord Jehovah Ginger, Jehovah Ginger. I call him Jehovah Swagger, Jehovah Swagger. I call him Jehovah Bashiri, cause I'm not Bashiri. Never mind me up. Yeah, yeah. Forever we testify, forever we glorify of your goodness and your mercy. What you do, no man can do. Listen, let me tell you what you did. Hey, listen. You make the blind to see, you make the lame to walk, you make the deaf to hear, you make the what a merciful God. You are testimony we testify. We call you different name like call you Jehovah Nisi, Jehovah Nisi. And we call you Jehovah Jireh, Jehovah Jireh. And we call you Jehovah Eloi, Jehovah Eloi. Me papa me oh. Let me tell you this circle, I call you Lord that makes you love me like this. Oh Lord, oh, you gave me life, give me this. I can't deny what you did. You make my life sweeter more. I will call you different name like Jehovah Lower. You saw me in the lower. Hey, Jehovah Lola. You saw me in the Lola. Hey, Juba to Toby. Only that can Toby. Never buy me. I call you that I say. Jehovah says, Jehovah says, I call you Jehovah. Erebo Shakaba. I call you Jehovah. Malebo Shakaba. Never buy me. Asaka, Laka. Call you Jehovah Nisi, Jehovah Nisi. How we call you Jehovah Jireh, Jehovah Jireh. How we call you Jehovah Eloi, Jehovah Eloi. Never buy me. Let me tell you the circle and call you Lord. Jehovah Ginger, Jehovah Ginger. I call him Jehovah Swagger, Jehovah Swagger. I call him Jehovah Bashiri, Osodo Bashiri. Never find me.